Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to Naturalistic Vibes Podcast. Thank you guys for joining me today. Appreciate you for stopping through, show a little love. So today's episode is going to be regarding holistic healing. So I want to make sure we kind of stay within a certain pattern as much as we possibly can, just to kind of so that we're on path and we're addressing certain things collectively, and we're tapping in to our higher selves as we're doing so. So again, today's episode is going to be centered around holistic healing, what that means for all of us, and some ways we can kind of get started on healing ourselves holistically and really addressing our traumas and addressing some of the shit out here that's keeping us heavy and weighted. And I'll kind of get into details of what I mean by that. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be addressing tapping into holistic healing. And so what that means for us is when you're healing holistically, basically what you're doing is you're tapping in to your traumas, and you're going to address them in a holistic manner. Excuse the background noise, you guys. I'm outside today. I decided to record outside, feet in the grass. So that I'm a nature girl. So yep. So anywho, so when you're addressing your traumas, you want to you want to address them holistically. And what that means is you're looking at the entire picture as a whole. You're not just looking at the symptoms, but what's creating the symptoms itself, and a solution to the symptoms, right? So that's what that's my take on holistic healing and my take on living holistically. To live holistically is, in my for me, and in my theory, is to not only address your the physical aspects of your life, but to also address the spiritual aspects of your life. If you're someone who does not identify with spirituality, that's totally fine. You don't have to, agree with it or tap into it or acknowledge it. It's still there. We all have our two parts to ourselves, dual, and that's our spiritual aspect of ourselves and our physical aspect of ourselves. And the way I kind of want to give you an example of what I mean by that, or what that kind of looks like, because again, I'm talking to my Gen X and millennials and exennials, okay? So I know y'all gonna know what I'm talking about right here. But you remember back in the day, I don't know if it's so much relevant today, but back in the day when you would take a picture, right? So whether it was a Polaroid or like a 110 camera or 35 millimeter camera, you had to have your film developed. Well, when you take a picture, the film is going to show what they call a negative. And that negative is what I like to look at as your shadow side. So that's the side that we're kind of like your shadow side. Yeah. So that's kind of like your physical aspect. And then the picture comes out, it's full of color, and you can see all the images clear. You can see everybody really clear. And that's kind of like your spiritual aspect. And so because there's clarity there, there's color, there's fullness, it doesn't have all the holes. Whereas the negative is only, it's exposing a different aspect of the same exact photo. So I kind of like to look at it, like that, like we're dealing with two parts of ourselves, and we are. And to get to the third piece of who you are, as I know I said two, but to get to the third part is the holistic part, the wholeness, the oneness. When you're tapped into both pieces, both aspects of yourself, then that tunes you into the holistic version of yourself. The oneness that we call Jesus Christ, that we're calling Christ consciousness, Buddha, whatever it is that you subscribe to, for it to make sense to you, rather. Right. So again, you don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to subscribe to all of these things, but these things are definitely definitely playing a part in your life, whether you see them or not, right? And so, what kind of I'll kind of go into how I even tapped into holistic healing in the first place, what it looked like for me in the beginning, and how it transformed, right? So back in 2011, back in 2011, my husband and I, we were truck drivers. And I'm telling y'all, we were rolling. We were coast to coast truck drivers. And at the time, there wasn't many women. Like, you had women driving trucks, but there wasn't a lot of women driving trucks at the time, let alone a lot of team trucks out there that were husband and wife. And so, yeah, so during this time, we had decided to, it was our second time actually getting back on the road. But we had decided to get back on the road to deal with some marital issues. And we'll tap into that in a later episode, because, again, this all has to do with holistic healing. We're going to be very transparent here. We're not about sugarcoating or hiding shit. Let's put it all out on the table, because my take is that's the only way that we can heal. Okay? But moving forward. And so we were rolling, y'all. We were rolling. Like, we had started like in 2010, and we hit it hard, like for a full year, like just pretty much nonstop. And by the time we got to 2011, I had some health issues that were starting to get worse, and to the point to where it was affecting my performance with my job. It was affecting my moods. It was affecting my relationships, mostly the relationship with my husband. It made me more moody, more just real fucked up. That's about the best way I can explain it. You know what I'm saying? And so after doing some research, I'll kind of get into a little bit of what happened without being too TMI, because that's my nature. I'm gonna try to keep it as not as TMI on here, but we're gonna still TMI a little bit, And so, talking to my sister one day, I'm driving trucks, and I was big chatty patty. I had my little Bluetooth on, riding down the street, and I was having one of those days where my health was, again, it was affecting me. And so I'm talking to my sister, one of my sisters, and I'm explaining to her what's happening, what's going on with me. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what the hell this is. So she tells me, she's like, you may want to get checked for fibroids or endometriosis, because what you're describing sounds like that. And at the time, let's see, I was 31. I had never fucking heard of fibroids. I heard of endometriosis before, because my sister had that. And she was the first person I ever heard of it. So when the doctor told her she had that, and I'm naturally wanting to know, okay, what is it? What's going on? How do you heal from it? Because all of my sisters are younger than me. So, just to kind of put that little preface out there. So yeah, I wanted to know, because I'm like, shit, there's some stuff I don't know, and I'm older, right? So, but anywho. So my sister tells me I'll get checked. So one day on home time, I go get checked. I go to the doctor, to a little health clinic, and they tell me that I have fibroids. And so naturally I'm like, okay, what the fuck's fibroids? How did I get it, and how I get rid of it? And, that was my boom, boom, boom. That's where I was coming from. And so through when my husband and I left the clinic, I get the doctor at the clinic. I bullshit you nice guys. He gives me this pamphlet, and he says, here's some information on fibroids. And then he goes, now don't go looking on the internet, researching this information. Everything you need to know is in this pamphlet. And so that triggered me. That triggered my spidey senses of saying, why the fuck would a doctor tell me not to do further research, and for me to only accept this brochure as having all the information on this thing that you're telling me that I have, right? And so that led me to say, fuck that, I'm going to do more research, because why would he tell me that? And I kid you not, that is what triggered, that what kind of sparked it. And so immediately we get back to the house, I get on the internet and I start looking this shit up, because why? I want to know what it is, how did I get it, and what's the solution or the remedy for it. And everything that I looked up when it came to fibroids required a synthetic hormone, some kind of fucking medication, all of these surgery, like, different types of surgeries. And at the time, hysterectomy just kept popping up. And I was like, I'm 31. I want to have children, so hysterectomy is out of the question. Myomectomy was something new that they had, I guess, started performing on women, but it was one of those things where it's like, okay, at the time to do the myomectomy surgery, they were injecting you with something that was supposed to help with, prep your body for the surgery. So at the time, I'm like, I don't want to do any of this shit. This feels very invasive. And how did it get there? Like, I was not getting the answer to how it got there. And so it led me on this path of figuring out how these fibroids got there and what it meant, right? And so, long story short, I ended up, doing my research, I ended up running across some natural remedies. And just from researching, I didn't type in natural remedies, just from typing it up and looking up solutions for fibroids, and a whole lot of holistic and natural remedies started popping up. A lot of different herbs you can take, a lot of different, like, one of the main things that stood out to me was the castor oil pack. Like I said, a plethora of herbs, dandelion root, burdock root. It's just some off the top of my head that I can think of. A whole lot of different herbs that I had never, ever fucking heard of before. And I told you I'm a nature girl. So I was like, okay, well, let's look into this, because there's something to this, okay? These natural remedies. Blackstrap molasses was one, because at the time I was still eating not like refined sugar. My husband was a diabetic at the time, so we did like Splenda, which is I wish I had known about different sweetener alternatives then, because we definitely would have tried those. But yeah, at the time we were doing like Splenda, and so blackstrap molasses was a good transition for me, because I was like, oh, it's molasses, and it's a sweetener, and you don't have to use as much as with the Splenda. But anyway, so fast forward, like I said, that was in 2011. You fast forward to 2014. After doing all this research, trying different things, I ended up with a plethora of vitamins and supplements at the time, trying all of these different remedies, these holistic remedies to shrink the fibroids, to get rid of the fibroids and all that good stuff. It was more so to shrink and dissolve them. I'll make sure I use the proper terms. So I was using the herbs to shrink and dissolve the fibroids. And so at this time now, I don't trust doctors, right? Because I'm like, why the fuck would this doctor tell me to only read the fucking pamphlet and not to do any research online? I'll do this research online, and I find way more shit online than when that's in that fucking pamphlet. So that kind of put me in this space where I'm like, okay, now I don't trust the medical doctors. I don't trust the medical profession. And it wasn't just from that one doctor, just so we're clear. So the one doctor was the icing on the cake. That caused me to go backwards in time, mentally. And I kind of looked at all the different times that either I went to the doctor, my husband went to the doctor, when I was a kid, when I went to the doctor, and I'm reviewing over all these doctor visits, and I'm realizing, not to mention all of these fucking research associations. And, at the time I was a big supporter of the American Diabetes Association. I was a big supporter of the American Cancer Association. And because my grandmother had breast cancer. One of my grandmothers had breast cancer, and she was a survivor. And so, yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, let's find a cure. Let's find a solution. Anyway, this path led me on once I realized that, okay, the medical profession has a flaw. There's a big flaw there. Let me do some more digging into this holistic remedies, and kind of see where that takes me. And so at the time we were living in Tennessee, And so, like I said, fast forward, I'm literally living with this, knowingly at this time from, let's say, 2011 to 2014, I believe. So about 3 years, I'm like dealing with these fibroid issues, taking all of these supplements, feeling like nothing's working. It was awful, y'all. I couldn't get sleep. My body was extremely exhausted, very tired, very drained, very, very, very lethargic. That's when I actually learned of the word lethargic, believe it or not. I had never heard of that before. My cycles were just extremely draining. And again, all of this affected and impacted my day-to-day life and my relationships. And I wanted that to change because it was putting me or causing me to be in moods that is just not my nature, like not my natural how I move. And so, yeah, I had to do something. And so now, mind you, because I'm not going to the doctors, remember I told you at this time I developed a mistrust. I was like, you know what? I don't know if these herbs and these supplements, or it wasn't herbs, I was just taking supplements. I wish I had known about the dry herbs themselves or the whole herbs themselves. I would have definitely done that. But so now I'm taking these supplements. I don't know if they're working. We decided to make a big, big life change, and we moved across the country to Washington State. And so at the time, we were trying to keep stress levels low because fibroids is one of those, just like many, many, many other illnesses, they're induced or triggered by stress. Some are even caused by stress. So yeah, we both wanted to make sure, and my husband was diabetic. So yeah, we were trying to make sure, let's keep our stress levels low. Let's make this move. We got to get out of here and make a change for our life. And so that was the angle that we were coming from. And so we moved in 2014 to Washington State. So, we get out there going through a whole nother few months of this fibroid stuff. I'm still doing the things some of the holistic remedies that I, had learned online. Again, not knowing if they're working. And so I ended up getting this job with this trucking company, as a driver manager, which was a different position for me. I mean, not a driver manager. It wasn't a driver manager. It was a different, it was over this, owner operator program. I apologize for that. Yeah, anyway, so ended up moving to Washington, getting out of the truck and now just working in the office for a trucking company. And in January of 2015, I had a myomectomy surgery. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Before I had the surgery, like I said, we moved to Washington State. And when we moved up there, immediately I was like, okay, let me see if the doctors up here are better, right? Maybe it was just where I was at. We were dealing with pretty much free or reduced in health insurance. And so maybe that has something to do with it, right? Because we know that the more money you have, the better care you get, right? And so, joking, but not. Anywho, and so I wanted to give it another shot. And so at the time, I was somewhat kind of still Christian. I grew up in a Christian home. We'll get into that in a different episode. So anyway, so I was still kind of in that space. And I just remember before we left Tennessee, I was trying to decide, should I get the surgery in Tennessee and then start new out there, or just get the surgery in Washington? But my spirit kept nagging me to wait till I got to Washington, which to me at the time didn't make sense, because I was like, when we get out there, we want to be able to hit the ground running and take off, new life, new beginnings. So anyway, we go, so anyway, I'm praying. I'm like, Lord, help me with which decision. Where do I need to get this surgery, here before I leave or go to Washington? So I'm talking to my husband one day, and I go and I ask him, I was like, babe, I really need to get this surgery because I can't keep up like I used to and like I need to, because, losing all this blood is really, really affecting my energy. And so I told him about my choices. I always consult with my best friend, my business partner, my life partner, Yeah, that's my guy. So we definitely make sure when we're making big decisions, we consult with each other just to kind of get another perspective sometimes, right? So anyway, so I'm telling him, he's like, nope, let's do it in Washington. So I'm like, cool. Okay. When he said it, it felt good in my spirit and everything just felt aligned. So fast forward, we get to Washington now. But well, let me not fast forward. Before we get to Washington, I do some research. I want to find the best surgeon that they have. At this time, I'm like, I'm not bullshitting. I want the best surgeon because I read some, a few horror stories on um, the surgeries and after the surgeries when it came to fibroids. And so I wanted to make sure I had a doctor who I felt in my spirit that they knew what they were doing and that they were going to take care of me and that they had my back, right, as they're taking care of me. And so I end up finding a doctor before we leave Tennessee, right? Now, the doctor, her name was just Dr. Johnson. And so every time I researched myomectomy surgeries and the best surgeons, she literally kept popping up. And so I was like, okay, Spirit, maybe she's the one. So we get to Washington. I get me a primary care physician, and I asked her to refer me someone. I wanted to see if it was going to be the same person. I don't know why I did that, but I was like, yeah, can you refer me a surgeon? Because we need to get this done. Guess who she refers, y'all? Dr. Johnson. So I'm elated at this point. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? Like, this is the person I wanted. We meet with Dr. Johnson. Awesome, awesome, awesome physician, awesome surgeon, awesome doctor. When I say awesome, she assured me that everything was, okay, let's put it this way. She didn't bullshit me. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She told me straight up what was, and actually set expectations, realistic expectations, in terms of what the surgery would look like, and results and how to maneuver. And so she also was great at not forcing me to do things I didn't want to do. Like, for example, I've never been a big advocate for birth control ever, had never taken birth control until these fibroid issues. And so I saw some of the effects, some of the good effects that it did, like for real, cleared the shit out of my skin. Like, my skin was beautiful, flawless, like them damn filters, y'all. Like, nothing. I was like, what happened to my little scar over there? And it was crazy. But I bled for 40 days and I went with that shit, So I was like, yeah. So by the time I get to Dr. Johnson, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do any of these things. This is what I've been doing. This is where we are. Boom, bam. What can you do? So she presents a robotics myomectomy surgery, which at the time, it was not that big, you guys. That was not a surgery that was that big. Most women at the time were being told that they had to have hysterectomies. I have a bunch of women in my family who had ended up with fibroids at some point in their lives, and they had to have hysterectomies. A ton of women in my husband's family lives, people that I was running across once I started doing more research on this, who had hysterectomies, and some wanted children, and so that's the reason why I decided to do the myomectomy, because I wanted to save my uterus. I said, just in case I decide to have children, I want to be able to produce children, and carry children. And so we went that route. She's totally supported me on that route. And now, I know this part is not so much more the holistic, but I want to point something out. The reason why I'm telling you about the surgery, in versus the holistic remedy, or continuing the holistic remedy, is because I want to show you guys something, and how spirit moves, right? And so anyway, so I opt to do the surgery. I get the surgery done in 2015. Amazing results. Amazing results from the surgery, from the pre-op to the surgery to the post-op to even today. Okay, and like I said, this was 9 years ago now at this point when I had that surgery, and so at the time I decided to have the surgery because again I wasn't sure if the supplements were really working, and my health was severely affected. Once I met with Dr. Johnson and she told me that I had like 17 fibroids, some the size of baseballs, some the size of golf balls, just various sizes. That kind of freaked me out because it helped me understand. I was like, oh my gosh, I have these tumor balls just sitting. This is how I was looking. I have these tumor balls sitting in my fucking uterus and outside of my uterus. Let's get them off because the supplement shit ain't working fast enough. This was how I was thinking at the time, so I want to make sure we're on the same page. And so at that time, I said, you know what, let's go ahead and do the surgery. So after the surgery, when Dr. Johnson and I are meeting, and she goes and she tells me that a lot actually of the fibroids were starting to die off and they were starting to dissolve, and that some had dissolved. And at that moment, I was like, oh shit. My supplements were fucking working, because before we did the surgery, I didn't take any medications. I didn't want to take any medications. The only thing that I was taking for pain was ibuprofen at the time. I really didn't want to take anything. So I wasn't doing anything else. As I was prepping for my surgery, the entire time I kept taking the the supplements. And again, this is what I had researched. So I was just moving with what I had found. I've since have developed that and found way more since then. But when it comes to herbs and supplements and stuff like that. But at that time, that let me see that the supplements were actually working, and they were dissolving and killing off the feed to the fibroids. And so once I did the surgery, I was like, okay, going forward, it's supplements and herbs for me, and just eating right and maintaining a low stress level life. And so that's what I have been aiming for. And I'm saying what I haven't, but that's what I aimed for at the time. And so, yeah, me seeing that those supplements were actually working actually helped me to push forward in looking for more holistic ways to now, let's say, reduce stress. Or now I want to help others around me. My husband's diabetic, so what kind of supplements can he take to help with his diabetes? That's where I started doing that. Oh, this is what's wrong. Let me see, because they have supplements for that, y'all. So that's kind of how I was coming off. And so that journey has evolved into from supplements to herbs and whole herbs, and how the whole herbs are a benefit, and how they can help with your illnesses. Some of these herbs, like just for a headache, y'all, you don't even have to take Tylenol. You can get some white willow bark and take a sip, make it into a tea or a tincture or something, and actually digest that, and that will get rid of your headache. And we're going to have a episode where we actually kind of discuss, herbs and what some of their functions are. And this just to kind of give you an intro to, connecting with some herbs, connecting with nature, and seeing what works for you specifically, right? But anyway, so that kind of led me on this path of, let me look at some holistic ways of healing. And so yoga was one thing that I was able to tap into when it came to reducing stress, something that's simple versus, finding a vice and going to that vice every single time, all the time, is my remedy to deal with my stress, right? Or to address my stress. And so, I wanted to at this time, I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to live a more holistic, health conscious life, because what do you mean the foods are killing me? What do you mean certain moods and shit have an effect on my health? What do you mean? That's kind of how I was coming. And so that led me to say, pull up the bullhorn and start yelling it at the mountaintops and telling everybody, we can actually heal ourselves. We can take care of our bodies better. And that's how I got here where I'm at now. And in a space where connecting everything on both sides of the poles, I wanted to see how what I was doing was manifesting into, like just your everyday life, how that was manifesting into illnesses and what kind of solutions we could provide, right? And then another little side story, and then we'll get to we'll wrap it up from there. But like I said, my husband was diabetic. And so he too, when we left, he was very sick. When we met, well, actually the year we got married, or the year or the next year, he found out he was diabetic after we were married. And we've been together 22 years, been married 22 years now. So all of his transformation took place in like 2017, 2018. So, but just real short, when he found out he was diabetic, he just took the medicines. And when I found out about all of these supplements, we started incorporating some of the supplements into his diet. Actually, before then, I have to give a shout out to one of my brothers, my oldest niece and nephew, their father. I won't name drop, right? But he ended up making us some movies one day, and he gave us a DVD. I think it was called The Raw Deal, or it's Eating Raw, or something like that. It has something to do with raw eating. And at the time, my husband and I, we're trying to get our health together. We both noticed, and we, starting to slow down a little bit more. We're approaching 30s, or we're in our 30s, late 20s, early 30s. And so we're wanting to make some life changes. And I think it was The Raw Deal or something like that. I'm gonna have to find the title, y'all. But it was a really, really great documentary, because these people were eating raw foods and their diabetic levels were drastically changing. And so all of these little things that we were running across was helping us and guiding us to make better better choices in our life when it came to our health. And so we just kind of took that and ran with it, right? So by the time he gets to Washington, and I'll let him tell his story further down in more detail, but by the time he gets to Washington, he makes drastic changes to his health, and now does not have that illness, or what we like to call that parasite, controlling his body now at this point. And so now we're in our 40s. We have different things, not any illnesses, but now it's just like everyday things that we're addressing in a more holistic fashion. So that's kind of where we are in the mission in terms of our health. But anyway, so like I said, fast forward, we're at this point now where we're like, okay, let's kind of see where this takes us. This is what I was going to say. My bad. I do apologize. The other parts of that, because we're talking about holistic healing. The other parts of that is, like I said, we moved to Washington in 2014. 2015, I have my myomectomy surgery. And during it, what I didn't say was during this time, like 2011 up, or maybe, 2009 maybe is where we noticed it, but it was like very light. But a lot of spiritual stuff started happening to us, but we didn't know what to call it at the time. We just noticed that we had different weird things was happening, like, astral traveling, and, being able to see, feel, hear things before they happen, and being very amused at how the fuck did I know that, like for example, before Paul Walker passed away, the dude from Fast and the Furious, right, before he passed away, we were driving, my husband and I were driving trucks, and we were literally kept repeating this line from Skulls. Where can I get some more of that shit? And that's the line that Paul Walker quotes or is saying when in Skulls, when they take them into the secret place and they put them in coffins and then they wake up out of the coffins. That's the first thing he says when he gets out of there. And then the brother passed away. And so it was things like that that was happening to us. And we were like, what the fuck is going on? So fast forward, like I said, this is about holistic and dealing with things in a whole. So we've already addressed our health, right? Our physical health. And next thing, when we get to Washington, because where you live matters. It totally matters. So when we get now, we've addressed and we're addressing our physical health. Our spiritual health has to be addressed as well. And so now we're starting to tap more into that. We're starting to embrace more of our spirituality, more of who we are spiritually, individually and together. We're really starting to tap into those things. And that's helping us also with our physical world, right? That's what we're learning. Oh shit, this shit is like yin and yang together, like a sandwich. It is going together, you know what I'm saying? And so we really, we dove head first. And so what we started noticing the connection between the two. So this is where it came to me. It was like, okay, we have to deal with these things from both sides of the spectrum. And then in 2016, I ran across a bunch of spiritual teachers, and that transformed and evolved me as a being, you guys, because from there I was able to get answers to some of the things and questions that I had. Like some of the stuff that was happening to me, these teachers were popping up in my life in some form and explaining why, right? And it wasn't that this was beyond it making sense with my air quotes, right? This was beyond it making sense. This was more of resonance. It was definitely more so like a resonance. And so when I think of resonance, I'm thinking frequency, so same wavelength, right? And so from there, this put a lot of things into perspective for me specifically, because now I'm able to connect not only my physical world and what I have going on physically, but align it and tag it to my spiritual world and what that means for me spiritually. And so that togetherness has brought me on this path of holistic healing. And one day I woke up, or one day I wasn't waking up. I was just sitting in thought. And I was like, in order to completely heal, you have to address the root cause of why you're sick in the first place. And so this caused me to go back and look at the fibroid issues, because at this time I don't have them. I've healed from, I've had the surgery. And that's, like I said, that was the extent of me doing anything that wasn't holistic, or natural rather. And that's the last time that I've done something like that, was in 2015. But since then, it's been really so much addressing the issues before they get that severe, right? And really seeing what's going on. And so I had to connect spiritually why I had the fibroids. And if anybody kind of understands how to connect emotions to illnesses, like that's a real thing. And so, for example, and this is in my theory, and this is in my observation and research, when you're dealing with, like, I'll use the fibroids specifically because it's a form of cancer, but it's the tumor, but they're not cancerous, right? And so if they are cancerous, that's when they are deadly, and they can be deadly and very, very much harmful. But because I had so many, I wanted to see, like, on a spiritual level, what that meant. How did I develop this? And I'll just tell you, women, if you're not fully expressing yourself from an intimate space, especially with yourself and with your partner, then you're holding in those emotions, aka holding in those energies in your body. And so that's what that kind of look like. And to kind of give you an example of that, like I said, it was affecting my relationships, especially with my husband. And so I'll give you this here. The more I started opening up and addressing my emotions and certain things with my husband, not that everything was all bad or horrible, just really speaking up and really saying what was on my heart at that in those moments without feeling like he was feeling some kind of way or thinking some kind of way. These were my own thoughts and feelings, by the way. He wasn't there, and this was shit that I was this was shit I was feeling, okay? And so once I did that, I realized how I felt y'all in my soul how freeing that was. And like, yeah, just like how freeing it is to really, really own your energy and really be able to express authentically and genuinely and not feel judged and not give a shit if you're being judged, and really getting that energy expressed out of your system. Because if you're holding and harboring lower frequencies in your system, that's going to create disease. It's going to develop into some type of illness. And the way you'll know is your body will give you signals like a headache, a muscle spasm, a jolt to the chest, a sharp pain, stuff like that. These are your body's triggers and your body's kind of receptors saying, hey, something's off here and we need you to address it. Something's not right. We need you to address it. So that's kind of what led me to addressing this from a holistic space. And so now I'm able to connect the spiritual aspect of it and the physical aspect of it to bring it into some kind of holistic healing, transformative solution. And that's what we're going to be doing here on this podcast. Yes, we're going to have fun. We're going to laugh our asses off. We're going to address and at the same time, we're going to address some of the hard-hitting shit that nobody wants to talk about. We're going to address the things that you may be feeling like nobody understands or nobody's listening. Nobody gives a shit. I give a shit. And so we're going to address these things, okay? Because why? Not only when you're doing things holistically, individually, it has to what I call petal, P-E-T-A-L, like a flower petal, like a lotus petal. It has to petal out into a shoot, I lost my thought that fast. But anyway, we have to evolve. We have to do it from a holistic space. That means that we have to address the root cause of the issue so that we can come up with a realistic solution to help. And what solution that helps one may not help the other, even if the symptoms or everything looks identical. That don't mean shit, because everybody's star system's different, right? So yeah, the way your solution for you may have to be different. Could be based off your element. Again, I don't want to go too deep into certain things until we've addressed them first, right? And so yeah, so healing holistically is just simply when we're connecting. I say simply because a lot of things in this construct is complex, presented to us complex, but it's very, very simple. Once we reduce the energy down, we can see what it is. So what we're going to do, I want to give you guys an exercise, actually. And once you do this exercise, I want you to hit me up on, either my Facebook or my Instagram, or you can simply shoot me an email. And I want you to tell me, like right now as you're listening to this, right? What's a thing that you can transform in your life, right? Just one thing, health related, right? Maybe you overindulge in eating and then that's causing you to gain weight, and that weight gain is causing, pains in your knees. So now we really need to get to why you're eating so much in the first place, right? Because it's not just those things we named, the root cause to why you're overindulging. That's what we want to address, and then provide a solution and try out the solutions until we see which one is best. Right? Go with your spirit to see what's the best solution to help you be able to get to the root cause and address why you're overindulging in the first place in eating. So that's just an example, right? So yeah, the thing I want you guys to do this week is I want you to see what area of your life can be transformed. Like what were you having a major issue right now in your life? And then I want you to think about that and think about what could possibly be the root cause of why you're there. And you may have to go back to your childhood to actually get this answer. And if you have a lot of stress going on in your body at this very moment while you're trying to do this, what I want you to do is take as many deep breaths as you need to. Calm the brain, calm the heart, calm the spirit, right? And I want you to do this simple thing. I want you to simply ask whomever you subscribe to as a higher source for yourself, your highest self, Big Mama, the creator, whatever it is that you subscribe to, calling your ancestors, because your ancestors are examples or they're keys to what the problem is, where the root is. Your ancestors are. So you want to tag them into this so that they can help you with addressing these things from a root core so we can actually evolve and move forward. Calling your ancestors, paternal and maternal, ask them for guidance to help you with seeing what the root cause is. Do this before you go to sleep. And as you're going to sleep, asking that your team to come in and help you with that clarity and with no stress and no worry about when and how you're going to get the answer. Let it go. Let it go into the ethers. And then before you know it, you'll literally start getting the answer as to what the root cause to your specific issue is. And from there, we can go forward in terms of, because now you can go back to your team. You never know who was in your family that was a holistic doctor, a holistic healer, rather. I don't really want to use the word doctor. So holistic healer, or someone who, actually used herbs and different remedies to help with physical healing, because the physical healing, that's going to create spiritual healing. The spiritual healing is going to create physical healing, and just like that, in a figure eight, in an infinity, and it goes together. So, and the more you continue to do it, the easier it'll become in terms of being able to cipher cipher when those answers are coming to you. But I want you to do that, and I want you to let me know, if you were able to identify what your root cause issue is in this very moment. It could be anything in your life physically, right? And then you don't have to tell me what your remedy was spiritually, but you can just let me know that, you found a holistic remedy, or you can share your holistic remedy, a solution to whatever that issue is, and how you plan to continue transforming that energy into the highest frequency that you can. Because everything that we're dealing with in this construct is energy, from money to health to love, all of it. And so the more, as we get deeper into this podcast, we're going to be touching on and addressing these things in more detail, right? So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I do apologize for last week. Last week was pretty energetically was kind of heavy, so I wasn't able to actually get an episode out. My episodes are scheduled to drop weekly every Saturday. So make sure that you get tuned in. Make sure that you're subscribing and following me. Matter of fact, if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure to hit that follow button, right there next to my name, NHV Podcast, a Natural Holistic Vibes Podcast. I also want you to check me out on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my social media profiles. My handle is at NHV Podcast. And the main space where you can find me too is at Naturally Holistic Vibes. And I'm across all social media platforms except for Twitter. When it comes to at Naturally Holistic Vibes. We also have a 30-day inspirational gratitude journal for sale on our website. So make sure to check that out. With that journal, it actually kind of helps with this holistic healing episode, because the journal, what you're doing is every day for 30 days, you're writing down what it is you're choosing to be grateful for, and you're walking and embodying that energy for the day. And then each day you have an inspirational quote there to kind of help you with that energy for the day, right? And so let me know what you guys think about the journal. Right now, it's just available on PDF. If you guys would like it on in a different format, just hit me up. Let me know. I'll see what I can do in terms of putting in an Unbounded or something like that. I really just wanted to have something for you guys. I know mostly everybody's digital today. Something that you can have on your phone, on your tablet, easy access, and you don't have to print it out unless you want to, But anyway, so that's where you can find me at. I appreciate you guys for checking me out. For checking me out, following me on this journey. Hopefully you guys stick with me on this journey. Make sure to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend. That's free, cost you nothing to do so. And gratitude is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Just for sharing that information for me. So this week, my plan is to get you guys 2 episodes. This is going to be the first one. Again, we're tapping into healing holistically and really transforming and evolving our energies into higher frequencies. That's where we are in this current energy. So I appreciate you guys for checking in with your girl this week. Make sure to stay tuned in with us. Again, if you have any questions, want to reach out to me, make sure to hit me up on my social medias, and then also my email is naturalholisticvibes@gmail.com. Please, 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 y'all, as I put this stuff out, because I know everybody's, doing the most right now. We're all trying to figure it out. But don't send stuff that's unrelated, because I'm telling you now, I'm simply just I'm just not going to address it. So let's make sure that we're asking stuff that's valuable. It's time out for some of the BS. Let's make sure we want to really, I need you to be, if you're here, that means you're here because you truly want to be here and you want to transform and you want to heal. Okay. Also, this is my last thing. I'm gonna get out of here. I do plan on opening up, doing some collaborations and some interviewing some guests. I'm looking at doing maybe starting in the summertime, to really start connecting with some people and really tapping in and adding some expertise to the fold, because I don't know everything, and I'm never gonna ever come off like I know everything or project to you guys that I know everything. And if what I don't know, we'll definitely get expertise on it. We'll get some expert advice rather on it, some expert information to be able to help us say, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay. So again, appreciate you guys for checking in with me this week. This your host Ivy, signing out. Peace.